The streets of New York glowed under the golden haze of sunset. Crowds rushed past, taxis honked endlessly, and skyscrapers rose high into the fading light. Among the chaos, a young African-American woman named Amara walked quietly, her curly shoulder-length hair framing her tired face. She wore a simple gray hoodie and jeans, clutching a worn backpack close to her chest. Around her, life seemed fast and full of possibilities, but inside, her heart felt heavy. She had dreams, yes, but dreams that never found space to breathe. In the little apartment she called home. As she crossed the street, she glanced up at the towering buildings, whispering to herself, one day I'll belong somewhere too. When she pushed open the door to her family's small apartment, the atmosphere shifted instantly. Her father, Marcus, a middle-aged African-American man with weary eyes and a loosened tie, sat on the couch. Bills lay scattered across the table, his hands rubbing his forehead as if the weight of the world sat on his shoulders. He barely noticed Amara slip in, but when his eyes lifted, frustration burned in them. "Where have you been?" His voice cracked through the silence. I was just walking after class," Amara replied softly, keeping her gaze low. Marcus stood, pacing. "Walking? Do you think life is about walking around while I break my back, trying to keep this house alive?" His words cut sharp, and Amara's throat tightened. She wanted to explain that the streets gave her peace, that the sky above New York made her feel alive, but she swallowed her feelings. Before she could answer, another voice sliced through the room. Vanessa, her stepmother, elegant in a fitted dress, stepped out of the kitchen with a look of disdain. "Don't waste your breath, Marcus. This girl doesn't care. She has her head in the clouds, always dreaming, never doing anything useful." Her finger pointed accusingly at Amara, her nails polished and sharp like daggers. Amara's chest ached. I help around the house. I study? Study?" Vanessa's laugh was bitter. "Your stepsister studies fashion, and look at her. She's building a name. What about you? What do you have to show?" Just then Selena, Amara's stepsister, burst in, radiant in a shimmering designer dress, shopping bags hanging from her arms. Her smile was wide as she spun playfully. "Look, what I got today," she said, showing off a pair of high heels that sparkled under the dim apartment light. Vanessa's face softened instantly as she hugged her daughter. "That's my girl, always shining, always proving her worth." She cast a quick, dismissive glance at Amara. Marcus sighed, rubbing his temples. "Enough, both of you. I've had a long day." His voice cracked with fatigue, but when he looked at Amara again, disappointment lingered in his eyes. "You need to start thinking about your future. Stop wasting time." Tears welled in Amara's eyes, but she bit her lip, retreating into her small bedroom. The moment the door closed, her shoulders collapsed. She sat on her bed, clutching her pillow tightly. Moonlight spilled through the thin curtains as her tears stained the fabric. She whispered into the quiet room, "Why is it never enough? Why am I never enough?" Her heart ached for someone to see her, to understand her worth. Days passed, and the weight of tension in the apartment grew. One evening, Marcus returned from work, his face set with a strange heaviness. He gathered Vanessa and Amara into the living room. Vanessa's eyes glimmered with curiosity, while Amara's heart pounded nervously. "A man approached me," Marcus began. His voice was steady, but his hands trembled. "A wealthy businessman. He made an offer." Amara frowned. "An offer? What do you mean?" Vanessa leaned forward eagerly. "What kind of offer?" Marcus cleared his throat. "He wants a bride for his associate. A good woman from a good family. He is willing to pay a large sum if one of my daughters marries him." His words fell like thunder in the small room. Amara's stomach dropped. "Marriage? To a stranger?" Vanessa gasped, a hand covering her lips before a greedy smile stretched across her face. This is it, our chance. This is how we secure our future. Selina will live like a queen. But Selina, lounging casually with her phone, smirked. Mother, I'm too young for that kind of life. Besides, I'm not interested in being tied down. I have plans. Parties, fashion shows, freedom. Vanessa frowned at her daughter, but quickly turned her sharp gaze back to Amara. Then it has to be you. Amara's eyes widened. Me? No. I can't marry someone I don't know. Her voice trembled with panic. Marcus's tone hardened. Amara, listen. This man is offering enough money to save us, to clear our debts, to give us all a better life. Sometimes sacrifices must be made. Her heart pounded so loud, drowned the noise of the city outside. Sacrifice? Always sacrifice. She had sacrificed her childhood, her dreams, her peace, and now they wanted her future too. That night, she sat in her room again, staring at the worn family photo on her nightstand. Her father looked younger, happier. Her real mother, gone too, soon smiled in the picture. Amara's tears blurred their faces. Mama, what should I do? If I say no, they'll hate me more. If I say yes, I lose myself. The following day, Marcus met with the wealthy businessman. He was a tall man in his late 50s, dressed in an elegant suit, his presence commanding. He handed Marcus a sealed letter with details of the arrangement. His words were calm but firm. This marriage will benefit both families. My associate is a good man, though life has been cruel to him. Your daughter will be secure. Think wisely. Marcus returned home, his hands trembling with the weight of the choice. Vanessa's eyes burned with greed. Selina remained uninterested. And Amara sat in silence, her heart sinking deeper into despair. Her world was about to change forever. The boutique glimmered with golden lights as Selina stood before the mirror, her figure wrapped in the luxury of a white bridal gown. The fabric shone beneath the chandeliers, every thread a symbol of wealth and privilege. Vanessa hovered around, her daughter with a satisfied smile, fixing the veil with delicate fingers as though crowning a queen. Amara watched from the corner, her chest tightening with unease. Vanessa's voice rang sharp, filled with pride. This is how a bride should look: graceful, powerful, ready to step into her destiny. Selina returned her mother's words, with a smile so polished it could deceive anyone. Yet when the seamstress left, the mask slipped. She turned toward Amara, her eyes narrowing with mischief. Poor Amara. Did you think all this was meant for me? No, dear sister. It will be yours. Amara froze, her mind whirling. What do you mean? Selina's laughter was soft, dangerous. The arrangement is already decided. You will stand where I am standing now, wearing this gown, walking into a marriage you never asked for. Father and mother have written your future while you slept. The words struck her like thunder. Her throat tightened and tears stung her eyes. Selina, this isn't fair. Please, don't let them do this to me. Selina's smile curved like a blade. She stepped close, her perfume wrapping around Amara as she whispered, Life was never fair to you, was it? You were born to serve, to stand in the shadows. Maybe this marriage will finally give you a place in the light. Be grateful for what you're given. Amara shook her head, her lips trembling, but Selina had already turned away, humming to herself, her face once again. The picture of angelic charm. The bridal gown shimmered behind them, mocking Amara with the promise of chains disguised as silk. That night, Amara collapsed on her bed, hugging her pillow as sobs racked her chest. The moonlight spilled through the window, silver against her skin, while despair pulled her deeper into its grip. The weight of choicelessness pressed so hard, she thought she might break. Then, the door creaked, and a familiar figure entered slowly. Her grandfather, his frame bent with age, but his presence, unshaken, crossed the room and sat beside her. His hand, rough and warm, closed over hers. His voice was soft, almost a whisper. "My child, you carry storms inside you, but I see strength in your eyes, even through these tears." Amara shook her head furiously, choking on her words. "They want me to marry a stranger grandfather. I feel like my life isn't mine anymore. I feel trapped." His thumb brushed against her hand, his gaze filled with wisdom. "Life often takes us to roads we never asked to walk. But remember this, Amara. Even when the path is chosen for you, the way you walk it belongs only to you. Dignity, courage, those are yours to keep." His words wrapped around her heart like a fragile shield, giving her a sliver of hope where none existed. She leaned against his shoulder, tears soaking into his shirt, while he patted her back with patience. "You are stronger than they believe," he whispered. "And one day they will see." The morning of the ceremony arrived heavy with expectation. The church bells rang across New York as crowds gathered, their chatter filling the grand hall. With noise, the aisles stretched endlessly, covered in white flowers, candles flickering along the edges. Amara stood at the entrance in the shimmering gown, her veil falling softly over her face. Her heart pounded with every step she took. Guests turned to watch, faces blurred into shadows, while at the altar stood the groom, a man she had only heard about, now flesh before her eyes. Ethan, tall and sharp in his tuxedo, leaned heavily on crutches, his posture proud despite the struggle. His blue eyes widened the moment he saw her, surprise flashing across his features as though he hadn't expected this woman to be his bride. Amara felt her knees weaken beneath the gaze, her chest tightening as her hands trembled around the bouquet. Each step echoed with doubt, fear, and the faintest flicker of destiny. The vows passed like whispers in a storm. Words she barely heard left her lips, binding her to a future that felt like someone else's dream. Ethan's hand, steady yet heavy, touched hers as the ceremony closed. Applause thundered through the hall, the sound hollow in her ears. She glanced toward her father, who stood at the front row, his weary face softened with relief. Vanessa's smile gleamed like victory, and Selena clapped delicately, her eyes dancing with false sweetness. Amara lowered her gaze, her soul sinking even deeper. The mansion felt colder than she imagined when she first stepped into it as Ethan's wife. The dining hall stretched wide, lit with candles that flickered against the polished silverware. Amara sat at one end of the long table, Ethan at the other. Between them stretched silence as heavy as stone. He observed her with guarded curiosity, while she kept her eyes low, her fingers tightening around the edge of her chair. The meal sat untouched, both of them prisoners of uncertainty. Finally, Ethan spoke, his voice calm yet edged with detachment. "You didn't choose this either, did you?" Amara looked up, startled, before shaking her head slowly. "No," she admitted, her voice almost a whisper. His lips curved into a humorless smile. "Then perhaps we are the same two lives tied together by other people's bargains." She wanted to reply, to ask what lay hidden behind his calm tone, but the words died on her tongue. The night dragged on with silences that spoke louder than voices. Days later, she wandered into his study for the first time. The grand room smelled of leather and old books, sunlight streaming through tall curtains in golden rays. Ethan sat near the window, crutches by his side, his gaze locked on the world outside. Amara lingered near the shelves, her fingers brushing the spines of books as though searching for courage. He finally broke the silence. "Do you resent me, Amara?" She startled, turning toward him. "No, I don't resent you," she said honestly. "I only resent the chains around us." His eyes softened, a flicker of understanding passing between them. For the first time, she saw something fragile beneath his hardened exterior loneliness. Perhaps, or longing. One evening, the garden, bathed in twilight, became their sanctuary. Amara knelt by the flowers, her hands brushing the petals gently as though tending to fragile dreams. Ethan watched from a wheelchair nearby, his eyes tracing her movements. For the first time, his smile was genuine, soft, and unguarded. "You bring life to this place," he said quietly. She looked up, surprised by the warmth in his tone. "I just like caring for things that can grow," she replied, her voice hesitant yet tender. The air around them shifted, something unspoken, blossoming in the silence. The distance between them felt smaller, the weight of duty slowly replaced by the fragile beginnings of connection. The garden was quiet, bathed in the fading colors of sunset. Amara stood trembling, her hands twisting nervously as Ethan watched her from the stone bench, his crutches resting nearby. The words she had buried deep inside could no longer remain. Hidden, tears welled in her eyes as she finally confessed, her voice breaking. "Ethan, there is something you must know. I never chose this marriage. It was arranged by others, forced upon me while I begged for a way out. I never wanted to deceive you, but I was powerless." The confession spilled from her like water breaking through a dam. Her body shook as she looked away, unable to face the storm she expected in his eyes. For a long moment, Ethan remained silent. The garden air grew heavy, the sound of cicadas filling the gap between them. Then, slowly, he stood with the help of his crutches, his face illuminated by the last light of day. His eyes were not filled with anger, but something deeper, something pained yet understanding. "Amara," he said softly, "do you think I didn't know? I saw it the moment you walked down that aisle. The fear in your steps, the sorrow in your eyes. It was never the look of someone who chose love. And yet, even then, I hoped that perhaps destiny had a different plan." His voice trembled for the first time, vulnerability breaking through the calm mask he always wore. Amara's tears fell harder, but she looked up at him with a fragile hope. "I thought you would hate me." He shook his head, his lips curving into the faintest smile. "How could I hate someone who has been just as much a prisoner as I am?" The days that followed brought a shift in their world. Ethan, once bound by his injury and the bitterness it carried, began a new journey of healing. The rehabilitation center smelled faintly of antiseptic, the air filled with determination as patients struggled against their bodies to reclaim freedom. Ethan stood among them, sweat dripping from his brow, his hands gripping the crutches with fierce resolve. Every step was agony, but Amara was always there, her voice steady, her encouragement unwavering. "You can do this, Ethan. Don't give up." Her presence was like a light that guided him through darkness. Each stumble, each painful attempt became a testament, not just to his strength, but to the bond growing between them. One day, the impossible happened. The therapists watched, their breaths held, as Ethan pushed himself away from the support. The crutches clattered to the side, and he stood wobbly but unbroken. Amara gasped, her hands flying to her mouth, tears filling her eyes. Slowly, step by trembling step, he walked forward. The room erupted in applause, but for him, the only sound that mattered was Amara's sobs of joy as she clapped through her tears. Their eyes met across the room, and in that gaze was a promise of something neither of them had dared to believe in before freedom: resilience and love. New York glittered with lights the night they attended the charity gala together. Amara wore an elegant royal blue gown, her presence radiant as cameras flashed around her. Ethan, now walking with confidence in a black tuxedo, stood proudly by her side. The skyline framed them, as if declaring to the world that something extraordinary had been born from hardship. Reporters shouted their names, and the sound of admiration filled the air. For the first time, Amara felt not like a shadow, but like someone standing in her own light. Ethan leaned toward her and whispered, "Do you see, Amara? This is us not bound, not broken, but free." Elsewhere, in the solitude of her luxury apartment, Selina sat before the television, her designer. Clothes forgotten, mascara staining her cheeks. The screen glowed with images of her stepsister, celebrated, admired, loved by a man she herself once deemed unworthy. Regret carved deep lines into her face as tears rolled down, staining the life of comfort she had fought so hard to protect. The silence of her lavish home screamed louder than applause, reminding her of the emptiness that came with envy. For the first time, she realized she had lost not to fate, but to her own pride. The story reached its true ending in a grand hall, filled with warmth and celebration. Music swirled through the air as Amara, in a gown that sparkled like stars, moved gracefully across the dance floor. Ethan held her close, his body strong and steady without the aid of crutches. Their steps synchronized as though they had been dancing together all their lives. Around them, family and friends clapped. In joy, faces glowing with happiness. Even Selina stood among them, her eyes softened with something close to peace, her lips trembling into the faintest smile as she watched the sister she had once scorned find her rightful place in the world. Golden lights shimmered across the hall. Laughter rose like music, and in that moment, every struggle, every tear, every scar was transformed into a tapestry of triumph. Amara rested her head against Ethan's chest, his arms holding her with a love that was chosen, not forced. The night closed around them, not as an ending, but as the beginning of a new chapter written by their own hearts.